that will be useful. So, or apologies to those, I'm just starting this. We did a little check-in on some one-on-one things. So now I'm talking about workshop schedules and the refocus for our time together. And this is important for not only what we're asking them to do, but also what we're asking you to do. So I think this is the right version of the slides. This is, of course, a work in progress and seems to change by the minute, but we're getting closer. So let me share, I believe, this screen with you. So we're doing something that's a little bit different this year by having them go straight to, I've lost you guys for a minute. I can't find where you all went, so I can't see you anymore. Sorry. Hang on, I have to stop sharing so I can find you again. That didn't work. Okay, well, I guess I won't be seeing you. So you guys, for the most part, have missed this in past years, in part because I was doing another design challenge all of Thursday afternoon, and it didn't make a lot of sense for everyone to be there when you were just going to be watching them move in and out of small group rooms. So we had in past years essentially spent Thursday afternoon getting them ready to start pitching on Friday, when we then would do 3 rounds of pitch. And so most of Friday in the past was 3 pitch rounds. And then we did, we've toyed with different things to kind of close out the day. But through several recommendations to not do so many pitch rounds and make room for some of the conflict framework and things that we had taught in winter quarter in previous years. So Mike and Caroline, if you remember, on top of team and IREMAP, we also had a conflict framework, and it was just so many frameworks and everybody was freaking out about all the frameworks. And so we kind of took the concepts and rolled them into team and prep and IREMAP, but didn't call out the conflicts. And there was a strong desire to get that content back in. And we have always talked about that you could think about conflict in terms of systems change, because almost by definition, you're going to run into it. You know, it'll either be outright conflict, or it'll be passive resistance to change, or it will be whatever it is. And so in order to make room, are you guys seeing the screen? The PowerPoint? Okay. So in order to make room for that, and also to bring back some of the leadership stuff that we have done in past years, the content for the leadership has bounced around between second and third quarter almost every year. We started like 1 year work styles was in winter, and then it was in spring, and then it was in spring, and then it was in winter, and it kind of bounces around a little bit. And so trying to think about what's a way to get more time for specific leadership skills, we have made room in the afternoon. So the idea now is they will start Thursday afternoon, like they usually do, with doing one design challenge to kind of get their heads on straight for what their headline is. And then, Caroline, this would be when I would be asking you to do the introduction to the feedback framework, because then they're going to go into drafting a pitch and practicing it. So this is another unknown, because that's going to be kind of high speed. And we're going to have to prep them to just start with making a pitch. And it's going to make for a full afternoon. So this is not, they don't get to revise and repitch. They don't get a second chance of that day, but they do come back then, they sleep on it overnight, and they come back and they do a second round. And then that's all the pitching that they do. Then the idea was, okay, now you've sort of got an idea about what you're doing. And we're going to revisit the SWOT analysis, which they are supposed to do and actually turn in before the workshop. And the idea is that we're going to be focusing on the W and the T. So the weaknesses and the threats. And the idea is, when everybody loves you and everything's great and there's a lot of kumbaya, it's not hard to make change. But as soon as you start to encounter rocky road, then you can either give up real fast, or you can, misread the signs of what's going on. And so the idea here is not that we're trying to get them scared, but we're just trying to help them get some perspective about normalizing what change management looks like. And then in here, there's also another leadership style inventory called the Cray Bill, which I don't know if any of you have done before, but it essentially is like, when everything is going great, what's your leadership style? And then when things are rocky, what happens? So case in point, I'm an expressive driver when everything's great, and I'm a driver when things are bad. And then I just bark orders and want everybody to get stuff done because I'm stressed out. And so some of this is sort of the setup then for conflict by essentially going through the process where you have to do the emotion regulation, sort of understand, where's the anxiety coming from. And then part of it is to remind yourself that you could behave differently. And if you weren't under pressure, you would. So reminding yourself that you have these other leadership styles, but they get stressed and so do you, and then you forget about them. So how do you go about reminding yourself about those other strategies that are actually more effective or could be more effective under times of stress? So more of the relational skills and less of the authoritarian skills. And then Michael and Amy are working on revisiting the conflicts drills. And so if you remember from the past, one of them was about the ICU under COVID conditions at max, and they want you to call in all the families and sort of take over. And so what we've tried to do here is we're going to have 3 different drills. So we have a good chunk of the afternoon to do this one. The first one, and I was just putting this in the manual, and tell me what you think, Jess, if this sounds right. But I was framing the first one as you have asked for time and resources to do an education project. So your ask is, I want to teach my nursing colleagues nurses and responding to emotion. And so you go to the director of education and they say, no, that's not going to happen. So it's not even so much conflict, but when doors close. And then how do you, manage that when you hear no? Can't possibly do that. Then the next one is basically riffing on that ICU, where it's what I'm calling this is asking for a change in workflow. Because a lot of what we do when we go in and we say, I want to do this, I want to see more palliative care patients, means I'm going to see less acute care patients, right? So, or if you're going to change your referral pattern, or you're going to change, something else, then it's almost always a workflow issue, and workflow issues are always gnarly. And so I'm proposing that we frame it that way, because it also normalizes that when you change a workflow, it's not going to always be easy. People are used to doing it a certain way. And then the third one, right now it's just as a clinical scenario, because we also wanted to sort of bring it to the bedside. So this one I just wrote for now, negotiating differences in clinical perspectives. Because I think that's, when we disagree about what's the right course of action. So that is how we're going to spend now Friday. And the other thing that we're doing we're going to move the people around in groups from pairs back to quads, which in the past have been our gemstones. And this year, because I was asked to, can we get folks back to their animal groups? And the answer is most of the time, yes. And some of the time, there's just going to be a mixed group because these quads are 4s and those groups were 5s, 6s, and 7s. So I've recreated some groups, and I can share these if you want, where that is what we're doing. And the idea was, because we're going to be putting them straight into doing pitches on Friday without a lot of time, we were hoping that we could put them with some people that they had prior relationships with, so that the trust issues wouldn't be quite so scary. And just hope that the other folks who find themselves in a group are all finding themselves mostly in a group, and so they will manage. But that was the logic model. But then for all these drills, Amy wanted 2 facilitators in each room. And since we have 10 quads, we're just merging 2 ready-made groups. So we will get 5 mixed groups with 2 groups each coming together. So those groups will be 6s and or 7s and 8s for the most part. And I can share that with you. So what that means is there's going to be a lot of moving around, and that will likely cause some confusion and distress. And so we're going to have to do our very best to manage that. The drills we're hoping are going to be so scripted, and they're not really role plays. They're really going to be, read the script, now name the skill, now read the script again. So it's not as high stakes to be able to just practice. How can you learn to do this, so that the idea of when you find yourself under stormy conditions, you can start that process of first regulating your own emotions and then sort of thinking through ways to go, and essentially practicing it under 3 different realistic scenarios, so that you can see how you upregulate and downregulate given what those stressors are and kind of who you're talking to. So does that make sense, you guys? Would you like me to show you the group configurations, or just send that to you later? Send it to you later.
Can I just clarify, are the 3 situations that you articulated, are those to practice some of the conflict skills?
Correct.
Conflict framework skills?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. And so are you proposing we're going to do 3 different scenarios?
And
that's still facilitated, or that's in a large group?
No, those are all these merged groups. So we go.
Got it.
Let's just call them quads times 2, so 8s. So because of their drills, which means we're going to have people go through the script and read and read and read and read. I think and we wanted 2 facilitators in each room. So the only way to make that happen was to merge groups, but that it should work because the scripts will be such that there will be enough opportunities for everybody to go multiple times. And it's improv insofar as it's come up with a line. But it's going, as those guys always do such a good job of drills, they're gonna make it really structured. So that should make it reasonable to accomplish.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
And is the learning opportunity in relationship to Craybill's leadership styles under stress, or is it practicing a conflict skill? Is it more like internal work and learning how I respond under stress in a scenario, or is it, this is the situation tension, I'm practicing a communication skill?
Since I'm not doing it, I can't tell you for sure, but I think it's the latter. I think it's kind of like know thyself, and now know conflict is normal, and now let's practice some common conflict things, but I don't know exactly how they're planning to notice your own emotion when you're reading the line. I don't know about that part yet. I don't think they're figuring it out. Bless you, Caroline.
Cool.
I think right, and I think as all with all things, this started out as a conceptual set of ideas, and now everyone's trying to work it out on the ground to sort of figure out how the time is going to get spent. And neither Michael nor Amy are here to answer the question, and I can't because it's still in their heads. So just in case you guys ever wondered if we'd ever stop innovating the answers, no, we're always going to be doing something new at workshop just because. That also has some implications for what we do on prep day. So I wanted to let people know about prep day. And Jody, I know you're kind of with a foot in both camps on this one. So I'm going to say don't come to the faculty part of that.
Okay.
Because we do want,
14th.
yeah, we want, I mean, we actually want you to be there as a participant, because
Okay.
it's always important to do it and see how it goes. You're going to have a little insider knowledge, although you've never done it before. So for you, it's not different because you've never had it. So
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay.
So you can listen with both ears. But I don't think it's a good use of your time to come on the 14th because we'd rather you be fairly naive to that side of it.
Sure.
More than enough
Sounds
time
good.
to catch up. But team, for everybody else's purposes, we may likely spend the majority of that time on Friday's facilitation because that's all new and we only have 3 hours. So wanted you to make sure that you can come to Thursday because while they are off doing their paired design challenge 2 to get their headlines ready, which will take about 2 hours for them to do that part, we're going to suggest that you guys meet in your own breakout room to just review and do kind of a live refresh on how to facilitate the pitch groups. So truly just in time practice. But I think it's actually going to be okay because everybody has facilitated these before. And I want to just, I mean, I know that's true. And we always say that. And I always pretend like this is easy. And I know that it's not. But I also trust this group to get their juices rolling quickly. And if we have time on Thursday to review, we can. But if we don't, our spare will be just in time review on Thursday. We might have time to at least reorient everybody. We will have time to reorient everybody to the Thursday pitch, but we may not have time to actually role play it until we get there on Thursday. So what the other things that I wanted to remind you guys is of what are the upcoming assignments to be on the watch for if your people are on it. And again, Jody, you'll be learning this as you go, either using them or watching others. But the logic model here is this week, in week 4, they're doing they're doing some leadership stuff, and it'll be useful for us to think this through. There's a lot of leadership models in the world. So many, 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 100s, different kinds of leadership models. And this quarter, we're ultimately introducing them to 3, I think. So the adaptive leadership model by the dudes. This book that I can't show you, but the adaptive leadership, because it's got this big thing on it. But anyway, this is a textbook. There we go. That one. That is really just thinking about, change management is really about managing people, and very rarely it's about managing tasks. And so what's the difference between like writing a computer program to upgrade your software versus teaching the people to use it after you've done the change? So really just sort of that big picture sorting. Then what they're doing this week is a leadership style assessment that is by Daniel Goleman, the guy who did the emotional intelligence work. And it is kind of a foundation piece for the Cray bill. They're both sort of getting at your emotional intelligence as a leader and how to read a situation and then choose what of your multiple skill sets to use. So this isn't really an assignment so much as it is about them thinking and doing a reflective exercise. So we ask them to complete the Goleman. Go and do it. If you guys haven't done it, it's worth doing for yourselves. And it won't take you very long, and it's just useful to know what they're doing. And the idea is for them to write a reflection on their leadership style, because what the Goleman tool will do is tell you where you're strong and tell you where you have room for improvement. And it's almost always in the areas of authoritarian responses. Like, don't be a jerk. Now, Mike, we would never have to tell you that, but people have to tell me that like on a routine basis because I'm a jerk. So, no, my driver can be scary, and it paralyzes people, so I have to be careful, right? So it's a little bit about own your power. Yeah, that's totally me. And then next week is when we're going to start the driver diagram and the Smarty aim. And so the idea is if people have been out talking to people, this is going to give them a place to start fleshing out what they're hearing and putting it down as potential action plans. And then the week after that, they're going to do a SWOT. So then they're going to be looking at introducing to the tool. So they'll be turning in their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then the week after that, week 7, they're doing an SBAR. And Caroline, this is a nod to you. And the notion that we would basically be using the SBAR as a replacement for the proposal outline that we have done in the past. And also so that they will have written down something that could be a pitch. So what I'm going to tell all of you is that when you see their SBAR, tell them this is a draft of what they're going to practice in workshop. And the idea is if we groom them correctly, they will have put words on a page, they will have thought about what they want to say. And so the pitch, the leap to actually standing up in front of somebody else and delivering that should come after they have at least done some practice thinking it through. So that was the most important thing I wanted to convey to y'all, is that the SBAR is actually their draft pitch. And at the end, they're going to turn in all these assignments as their PIP. So all we're asking them to do is write drafts at this point, and some might polish them, some might not. But the idea was that to get to their plan at the end, they just have to complete their assignments. Then they collate them and they call it a plan. So I can't tell if what I'm saying makes sense to you guys. So please talk. Mike, are you going to talk?
Yes, I think that makes sense.
So I'm trying to sort of scaffold this for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your effort, Helene. I think so much of this quarter is like, at least for me, I'm going to just speak for myself. I feel like each week I'm like, I have to basically learn the material in the week that I'm grading. And then I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Okay, let me learn about this really quick. And then I give my feedback to my students. I don't know how it is for other people, but because it is a little it's overwhelming, I think. It can be a bit overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. And it's overwhelming when they don't keep up because their assignments are linked. too. So I think that's where it's different from the other quarters. Jess?
Yeah.
I like how you characterize that, Caroline. It reminds me of some of our other mentors that have less experience teaching with us and how they've said very similar things, that they sort of need to go through the week and review the material and maybe even do it themselves and then be able to offer feedback. So I don't know, kind of just reminds me that we're all in learning phases, and some of us more than others, and different content areas.
Right.
And we trust we trust in you as our fearless leader, that you have the big picture in mind. And I know this year, it's not just you. I think you've often held so much of that in past years. And I think now we're hearing you're talking about this person, you've been delegating more and more things, and Jess was so integral in getting so much, I think, of the canvas and like all the material, and just I think you've had more partners this year, and those aren't necessarily the three of other of us on this call, and that's okay. Like, we trust that the rest of you know how those pieces are all falling together. And I think, I mean, even when I'm working with training Vital Talk facilitators, I'm like, just compartmentalize, like, what do you have to do for this half day? And I think that's okay. Like, it's okay for the rest of us to compartmentalize it into just like, what's the next task we have to do? Because you all are, like, as course directors, are involved in like the and program officer, director of operations. You guys are in charge of the big picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the part that's interesting, it's kind of like we got a makeover for the party dresses and the makeup, but the content underneath is pretty much the same. So that part at least should be somewhat reassuring, is because even though right now when I say it's the driver diagram and a SWOT, and you're like going, yeah, whatever, blah, 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 blah. As soon as you open those up again, they will look familiar. So yes, to that point, that is true, because we, with the exception of this leadership stuff that changes, nothing else has really changed. And the idea of the part that Michael and Kristen are definitely showing, I mean, this is definitely a tripartite effort, this, quadrupite, it's like, it's a group effort. And I have sort of stepped way back on the leadership stuff. This was always either Lynn's job or somebody else's job, and I was always making room for that. And when that didn't happen, I would step in and offer something. But the logic model for sort of integrating leadership throughout this as a thread is probably the biggest change. But those are kind of two halves of the same coin: change management and leadership. So we're just flipping it so that it's the outward facing pieces about the leadership. And these are all the tools that support that kind of leadership. So I think that's the distinction. Anything else? What else am I missing? What else do you guys need? Oh, party planning, especially since the two of you are here. As is often the case in Seattle, our weekend is getting topsy-turvied for what we're doing on workshop Saturday. We've now got too many commitments of people being gone, and we really were hoping everyone would be there. So we're probably going to be rescheduling to June, and we haven't even figured out when yet. But so I wanted to check to see where you guys were at with your Boise planning and your Portland planning. Boise, I'm sure you're already.
Planning is just starting as we're talking right now.
Excellent. Which is why why we're talking about it, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. The last time we got together, Helene, you showed that circle, and you said how things can change on that circle. And we were talking about this remodel, and you brought that up as an example. And we are two crazy people, but my wife and I are on the same page, but we are skipping the remodel and we're moving. But we're staying in Boise, but we said screw it. Let's not do the remodel was super expensive, and so we're downsizing significantly. We've reassessed our lives, and so what would typically be held in our backyard will not be held in our backyard. So that's the only thing that I'm formulating with our get together. It can happen anytime, and it just may be in a new backyard or someplace else. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Wow, congratulations on all the levels. Such a
Yeah.
smart marriage-saving decision you've made there.
Oh, well, it was crazy. Like we were riding in the car, and she said, "Mike, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I think we should just move." And I said, "You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I think the same thing." But it's gonna be a big lifestyle change, and we are just feeling nothing but positivity around it, like a snowball of positive. It feels good and it feels right. But we've been in that house for over 20 years and raised Josie in that house. There's a lot of emotion there, and but it feels good. It's just a change, and I'm only bringing it up because of the get together in Boise, and I'm not sure where it's going to be, but it will happen.
Can you deputize any of your alum to help you?
Maybe I can. Maybe I'll think about that.
Yeah, you could recruit a buddy.
Yes.
And if I recall correctly, you hosted one of these events in a brewery.
Yes, we have lots of options here.
Great. Let us know how we can help.
Okay.
Jess, I did get final confirmation, I think, since I emailed late last night, and then I emailed this friend of mine who has a food truck, and he has confirmed that he is available, which is going to make a huge load off of my plate. So I'm going to confirm ours for Friday the 17th. It's actually my dad's birthday, but it'll be fine. What time does the workshop end, Helene? On Friday, 5-ish. So why don't we say 6:30 to 8? It's not like a super long time, 6:30 to 8:30, maybe 6:30 to 8:30. Should I do 6? Let's do 6 to 8. Sorry, I'm thinking about this in real time.
Yeah, the only thing, although the hard work will be done, so by Friday afternoon they will be able to celebrate. So just FYI, Saturday is the appreciative inquiry, where they get their little postcards and they go and talk to each other about what makes them good leaders. So it's not like they have any high stakes things.
Yeah.
So just let them know.
And for the facilitators as well.
But they do start at 8:30. Yeah, 8:30.
And you need all the facilitators on the Saturday?
For closing circle.
Closing circle. Yeah.
Okay. We haven't, in past, we have not gone out to the small groups. It's almost like an open spaces kind of space. And so I don't think that's.
But you don't need small group facilitators to facilitate anything on Saturday. No. It's the appreciative inquiry, and then I'm just trying to partly I gotta pack and get up to Seattle, and if I've got stuff going on the night before. But it'll all work itself out. So I'm gonna confirm then, let's do 6 to 8 on the 17th, on May 17th, and I will send you actually the address right now in the do we know what a budget is?
I think, Caroline, every time that you've done this, Mike as well, has been just fine. If we're thinking about a meal for your local folks and alum, I think you guys have been in the neighborhood of $300 to $500, and you've cleared that easily. If you have, that's fine.
Yeah, about that. So 500.
I think last year we said basically under 1,000, and like nobody's touching that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not, I've never ever spent that much. I feel like usually it's been right around 300 to 500. Yeah. I just don't know. In the spring, I'm going to try to get it out to more people. So maybe and we do invite, I think, family, like, so sometimes we see higher numbers, but
We've also
yeah.
over ordered food all the time. So I bet if you have a made to order in a food truck, it'll be about the same or better.
Well, the nice thing is you guys usually have a pretty good RSVP by the time we get there, so that's really helped a lot. Because then I can tell him, because he usually buys the meat, that week. So as long as I can get some numbers to him, like earlier that week, like the Tuesday or something, it should be fine. Okay, so this is I'll send the address. It's called. Okay. And then 6 to 8 p.m. And then my cell can be the contact information.
Okay.
Bring a coat if it's cool weather. It is outside but covered. Okay.
Thank you.
I think we did our agenda, people, and we have 6 whole minutes left. So thank you. Anything else, Jess? What am I forgetting? Anything?
Are you looking at your original agenda? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're great. Thanks, Mike.
Then I'll let you go. I'll probably, let's stop the recording. And